last month I made a call for snow days, and they appeared. So call me Nostradamus. Seriously, I think it has a nice ring to it. But what will I predict this month, you ask? Well, I won't predict the end of the e-book or the sudden rise of teens reading Dr. Zhivago, though you should read it. It's a pretty good book. Pasternak was an amazing novelist, and he was Russian. And the second movie version starred Keira Knightley. That's a big thing. But let's get to the books. We've got something old, something new, and something cool. So I'm sitting at my desk here in the library at Benton High School. I'm considering my first episode of this vlog, how I reviewed 3 books that have a male lead, and I think to myself, Nostradamus, this will not do. I think you have to read books from both sides of the gender divide. You just have to do it. As a reader, you have to do it. As a student, you have to do it. As a teacher, you have to do it. As part of a married couple, you have to do it. It gives you a clue in to the other side of the fence. Now, don't get me wrong. You're not going to understand your girlfriend or your boyfriend, your wife, your husband, your fiance. It's not going to give you an answer. We're all too mysterious. But it does help. Okay. Now, the morning I was thinking this, the book drop just banged and boomed, like this heinous furnace burp, kind of like what you're hearing up above me right now as it's billowing and carrying on. But in drops this book by Kristen Chandler. It's called Wolves, Boys, and Other Things That Might Kill Me. Now that got my attention. I thought that's a great title. I rarely take a book just based on a title, but I thought, this is written by a lady. Let me give this a try. And I sat down and I started to read. I thank God I did. It's not a new book, but it's about wolves. It's a romance, but it's about wolves. Okay? Did I say it's about wolves? It's about KJ too. She's a high school junior and a student who's discovered that she really is a girl, even a pretty girl at that, and that makes her nervous, okay? It makes her neck turn shades of raspberry. It worries her dad, who's a wilderness guide on the outskirts of Yellowstone National Park. It alienates her old friends because they're still a little bit frumpy, and here's this little waif-like wallflower who all of a sudden is reasonably attractive. And then you've got the wolves, okay? And you've got Virgil who takes pictures of the wolves, and you've got his mother who studies the wolves, and you've got a school newspaper and a journalism teacher that they call Mrs. Baby, and a wolf debate. Yeah, it's about wolves, okay? But it's also an amazing read, and a guy can read it, and a girl can read it, and despite the romance, it's not overwhelming, and it's not a tearjerker, and it's not some bad romantic comedy that you watch on the Lifetime network, okay? It's a very good, solid read. I'd say it's 3 stars. 3, folks. 3 stars good. Kristen Chandler's book is our something old in this episode, but Robin Sloan's new novel, Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore, is both our something new and something cool. I'm very serious about this book. It's a very playful read. It's very fun. But to me, I think it is one of the first truly 21st century novels. And I say that because it utilizes current technology to further its storyline without appearing to have an agenda behind it. Books like Stieg Larsson's series before he passed away, where he talks about a hacker, the girl with the dragon tattoo, etc. Those books are very much 21st century novels as well, but the technology that's in them is now out of date. You're talking about 10, 12, 15 years removed now. This book, Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore, is not like that at all. It's very up to date. Robin Sloan used to work for Twitter. He knows the ins and outs of Google. The whole internet marketplace is something that he's very in tune with, and it makes this book very amazing. It really does. It's an astounding book for various reasons. Now, the main character is a young man named Clay Jannon, who's a web designer. Now, I have no affinity for web design. I'm a librarian. I read. My computer helps me read. I'm not for that world. And yet, this book, it opens that world to me. And for anybody who's not computer savvy, this is a great read. For anybody who is computer savvy, this is still a great read. Okay, now this main character, Jannon, is an unemployed web designer, as I just said, and he's out looking for a job. And during the process, he can't find one. Let's face it, today's environment, work-wise, is a very tough thing. And for those of you in high school, you don't know this as of yet, but it will become very apparent to you soon as you enter the world. If you don't go directly to college, it's a tough life out there. In this case, Clay Jannon has graduated from art school. He's had a good job, but like a lot of startup companies in the computer world, it went down very quickly, and then he was unemployed. And when he's walking around looking for a job, he stumbles on, you guessed it, Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore. He goes in, he asks for a job, he gets a job. But that's where things change, okay? What ensues is really a first-rate mystery without all the predictable traits of the genre's norm. The whole cloak and dagger business, that's really not here, but it still is a good, solid mystery. Now, no one dies. There's no extreme violence like a lot of the genre has. There's romance, but it's minimal. And it may sound boring. It really may. But don't bet on it. You'll read this book straight through to its double climax. And it does have a double climax, which is very interesting in and of itself. You'll get an insider's look at Google. And that rivals Microsoft as the nerd empire. But it's very interesting. It gives you a clue into the modern world. And that's why I say that it's truly a 21st century novel. Now, one of the wonderful things about it, too, though, is that you'll become aware how the internet can merge with history and how it builds a corporation, how it'll make even a case for immortality in ways that you can't fathom until you read the book. Now, this all still may sound boring. I know talking this way, a lot of teenagers will go, I don't have time for that. It doesn't have vampires. It doesn't have zombies. But trust me, guys, if you read it, it'll be a better book for you than it is for me. I'm a guy in my 40s, but I've already talked to a few teenagers about this book, and they're all intrigued. And once they read a few pages, they become even more intrigued by it. Not to mention the fact that Dust Jacket glows in the dark, which I don't know what marketing concept that is, but it's still just, it's a good, clean read. And a book like that, as far as I'm concerned, is always a 5-star book. It just is.